And you're a doctor.
Once was, yes.
What led you to be here now?
A lot of answers to that question. I've experienced things in the last 10 years that I would not have believed possible and would just discount as fiction had myself 12 years ago heard these things. To answer that question is to confound my own capacity of understanding or logic in some ways. But what I believe has been happening to the infinite nature of myself, the infinite part of me that we might call a soul or we might call an energy field, that thing I believe has been vibrating through different aspects of the universe since the beginning of our time. And I believe that I've been bumping into this planet many times, and I feel memory in different places around this planet that is inexplicable, and I know I'm not the only person to experience that. So I think we are all bumping into deep memories, and I don't know if that's memories that I have personally gained. I think it could be as much human memory that I bump into, and there's something about the antennae within me that pick up on those channels of information, and so I don't know that it's my infinite being that was here in a finite body and experienced something and now I'm remembering that, or it's just an amount of information that exists in nature that I bump into and recognize. But suffice it to say, the physician in me has been seeking deeply the opportunity to heal something within the relationship between the finite and the infinite since my origin. Like, there's something that I feel that is really innate to my being that has been sometimes patiently and oftentimes desperately seeking the root wound. And it tortured me through my academia. That's a lot of people have introduced me as a triple board certified physician, and then people are like, "Ooh, that sounds really smart." No, that's not a smart statement. It means that the guy was so unsatisfied by what he learned in his first one that he went and did a second subspecialty in medicine, and he was still so unsatisfied by what he knew, he still chased another one. So it's in my lack of satisfaction for the knowingness that came through those deep studies in different parts of medicine that led me to the third, and ultimately led me out of academia. I found that the truth that I was looking for could not be found there. And I just kept drilling and found, much of that truth in my patients ultimately, and as my greatest teachers rather than some academic, marbled hallway. And it was in the depth of meeting humans at their moment of death. My third subspecialty was in hospice palliative care. So when you're admitting 80 patients a week to die.
Wow.
And you do that for 4 years, you start to multiply that out, and you've seen tens of thousands of deaths.
Yeah.
And not a single one of them ends up looking like an endpoint. And so you get to see tens of thousands of rebirths happen. And the veil becomes so thin at birth. My introduction to medicine in this lifetime was through an effort with an international group of midwives in the Philippines, and was birthing babies there. I was going to engineering originally. Had that experience, couldn't go into engineering anymore, went into medicine. If you've ever been blessed to sit within a room to witness a life coming through the womb, through the vaginal canal of a woman, you have witnessed the most miraculous thing that any living being will see. It is a true portal into an infinite zone when that finite body presents itself and takes a first breath. And then to consider that being, that human being that just took its first breath, self-organized in the womb of its mother, in cell division of one cell that turned into 70 trillion human cells, not a single one of which could have lasted even a few seconds, even a few milliseconds, without the life within it, which is microbial, it's called mitochondria, that are liberating sunlight inside of a human cell. And so we are sunlit beings that self-organize 70 trillion copies of the same cell to become dozens of different organ systems that communicate across grandiose distances at the microcosm level of a human body, to coordinate a biology that can hold a neurologic experience through which almost all of nature speaks. We now know that intelligence is the result of biodiverse data streams. The colon of a human being has just recently been discovered to be the most complex ecosystem, most biodiverse ecosystem on the planet. It is more biodiverse than any other colon in any other animal, including mammals, and it is logarithmically more complex than non-mammal multicellular creatures. And the recent neuroimaging out of UCSF and some out of UCSD and a couple other universities over in Asia are showing us that the living human colon and even our small intestine is not the beginning of the human body. We thought that the gut barrier, like our skin, was the outermost touch with nature. And so we figured everything outside of the gut, or everything in the tube of your gut, must be outside, and everything inside of that human body or on the other side of that gut membrane must be you. And in this neuroimaging that's now done in live tissue, you're able to see that the brain sends out billions of afferent nerves that pierce the veil of your gut lining, pierce your veil of self-identity, to speak and listen directly to the bacteria themselves. And that is the data stream that becomes intelligence. And so when billions and billions of nerves listen into a biodiverse ecosystem, and that ecosystem is given access to speak information into a single neurologic system, you get intelligence. This is the CPU chip of a complex computer. But the CPU chip in any of these fancy computers you have in this building have never thought of a damn thing. They have no intelligence innate to them. A CPU chip is simply something that at high speeds can move information through. It can allocate information here, there, but it needs information to decide where it's going to allocate information. So the CPU chip is absolutely not the brains of the operation, and yet we call it the brain. So this is just a central processing unit. This is the switchboard operator of nature. And the thing that gives us the perception of intelligence is that we have hundreds of thousands of species that can speak through my CPU chip simultaneously. And it's for that spectrum of information that I get to speak for nature. Nature speaks through me. God speaks through nature. And so is the divine, anything that we would call God, actually slowly designing biology to be able to speak its own voice, to speak for itself, whatever that is. So why did I get here? How does being a doctor get me here? My doctoring effort towards looking for the root cause of injury, i.e. that injury that has tinted our glass to the reality we live in such that we cannot see it clearly, comes down to the fact that we do not trust the voice that we speak. We don't believe we speak for nature. We actually believe nature is against us. We think we got rejected by nature. And you just need Alan Green to perform his thing to remind you that it began with a rejection from the garden, and we got kicked out. And if you speed forward a couple of 100,000 years of human history, we go from kicked out of garden to an English Oxford dictionary that defines nature as everything in the firmament of the earth, including minerals, plants, animals, except humans or anything humans has created. We wrote ourselves out of nature and everything that we would create out of nature. And that ultimately, I believe, in a long journey of being a physician, maybe hundreds of times, I can tell you that the root injury that leads to all dis-ease is the belief that we are not of nature and that nature is not speaking through us, and we do not trust that voice, therefore. And for that, we have deep insecurity that requires an egoic shield, and we hurt each other ad nauseum. We destroy each other. We war infinitum. We are always at war for this root injury. And so my desire as a physician ultimately has gotten me down to the point where if I can just show humans the nature within them, then there's absolutely nothing required of me as a physician, because they heal themselves. As soon as you trust your own voice, and that angelic voice we heard that night in the last pyramid of the first day, there was the angel that found herself. And she sang a note so pure that she healed 40 generations back, 40 generations forward. She started a new genetic line for her humanity. And I've gotten to witness that a few times in life, and that's why hospice was such an important last healing process for myself, probably, but certainly my last frontier in my asking medicine to show me something true. It showed me that if you trust the medicine within the soul that sits in front of you, it will show you something so magnificent and so beautiful that you can't even put words to it. And I got to see elders do that. I got to see, one woman comes to mind, dying at 96 years old. She showed me something so beautiful that words can't explain it. I remember it from an extraordinary 12-year-old girl who died of a horrific metastatic cancer in my clinic. She had been through like 42 rounds of chemotherapy, 12 massive surgeries. It had her leg completely removed through a few different surgeries, her pelvic thing removed. I mean, just one of the most horrific human journeys. And she was one of the most pure, unvictimized, beautiful beings that I've ever met. And she showed me something in her moment of death that is also just so excruciatingly perfect that it cannot be, there's nothing that can change that. That is a truth that is indelible in the history of the universe. And so it's these moments that I've come to trust that to be a physician anymore is to just absolutely surrender any part of that human journey, and to be a physician is to only be a witness now, and to be a scientist is only to be a witness now. You can have no intent as a scientist and actually see the beauty. If you have any intent as a scientist, you fuck up the data immediately. Yeah. And so if we are not leading and living from our curiosity as a pure signal of the divine within us, then we're going to create murk. We're going to create the mud. We're going to create the stained glass, and we will only see truth vaguely through it. Signal of the divine within us, then we're going to create murk. We're going to create the mud. We're going to create the stained glass, and we will only see truth vaguely through it. It will still be astounding in its beauty despite the stained glass. But I yearn for the beauty of those moments, man. And I wonder what it would look like to live a life where I wake up and I breathe, and with my first breath of the morning on a pillow in the sunlight, I'm already in that space. Yeah. There's no human emotion that can be projected at me or pitched at me or triggered inside of me that could take me away from that period of life. I would probably stop being human at that point. You'd probably move right into the infinite, I suppose. But I love the dance at that edge of the veil, at the, how much can we purify the glass that we look through, such that we can see the other side more clearly, such that we can have more gratitude for the fact that we get the gift of finite existence right now. Finite is a very, very, very valuable experience. Infinite is lovely.
That's such a profound thought.
It's only for the finite that we can see the beauty.
The two are simply complementary yet opposite conditions of each other, absorption and reflection. I love the way you just put that you love the dance at the edge of the veil.